Good day, grade 11s. Today we are going to look at finding general solution to our trig equations. Now, finding general solution is finding a solution from the trig equation that is a value which is going to go over the general 0 to 360 restriction that we usually work with. So that means you may get a value which is like 450 degrees, or you can also get a negative 180 degrees. So that means we have gone over this restriction that we normally work with. Now, before we do that, I just want to explain why we now have values that are more than 360 degrees. If we look at the graph of sine, I could have used also the graph of cos, but I just chose to use the graph of sine. We know that metric graphs, all of them, they are periodic. That means the sine is periodic, cos is periodic, and also tan is periodic, which means the graph repeats itself over and over. So now if you look at this, I've got my y-axis and I've got my x-axis. From 0 to 360, that's the graph that we normally use. We normally end here, right? Now I have extended the graph. If you extend the graph, it behaves exactly the same way. From 360 to 720, it behaves the same way. From 720 to 1080, it behaves the same way. And then also from negative 360 to 0, it behaves exactly the same way as here. So that is what we mean by periodic. So the graph repeats itself. So if I were to cut this small piece from 360 to 0 and fit it exactly on top of this one, it would sit nicely, and this point that I have indicated will sit exactly on top of this one. Okay, so what does that mean? If I were to now look for sine 90, sine 90 is equal to 1. Now you notice that also sine 450 is equals to 1, as well as sine 810 is equals to 1. Sine negative 630 is equals to 1. You can even put this in your calculator to check. It will give you 1. So that means these values, 90, 450, 810, negative 360, are solutions to sine theta equals to 1. So that means if I were to solve this within this given range, I cannot just have one answer or two answers given by this the four quadrants. The answers are going to go more. The answers are going to be more than just the two answers. I'm going to have 450, 810, negative 270, and negative 610. And if this was to be extended even further, then the answers would be even more. Okay, so obviously in a given situation, you are not going to then write all these answers, because now you have seen that all of them after 360 are just repetitions. The graph is exactly the same. So it is okay to just write the answers that you get from this, and then just write something special to accommodate these answers that you get from the repetitions. Okay, so how do we write that? So it means you are going to solve your equation just like you'd normally do. Now I've given another example. I've written sine theta is equals to 0.5. Now the question says find the general solution. So we would say, okay, do our analysis. Sine is positive on the first quadrant and on the second quadrant. Then we find sine theta 1. It would have been 30. Okay, sine theta is 30. So now to accommodate any other that's going to come after the 360. So from repetition number 1, we are going to then just repetition 1, 2, 3. Then we are going to write those other answers as k times 360. So this k is just representing the first repetition, second repetition, third repetition. So that means whatever answer that you have will then repeat itself after 360 degrees. So you'll see that I have written here that when for the first repetition, we just say plus k, our k is going to be 1. So that means the next answer that you would have obtained would have been 30 plus 360 times 1. So which is going to be 390. And then the next one would have come from 30, would have been 30 plus 2 times 360, which is 720 plus 30. Then the next answer would have been 750. So instead of writing all those answers, we just write k plus 360, and then k is an integer. This just says k is an integer. So this is how you write your answer for a general solution. So it is not just going to end here like we did with just as the solution. If the question says find the solution, then our answer would be 30. And you'll notice that now I haven't written theta 1 because I have to now accommodate these other values that I'm going to get from the first repetition, second repetition, so on and so on. Okay, and then from theta number 2, I would have obtained it as 180 plus 30. Now, 180 plus 30 gives me 210. Now, you notice again that I didn't write theta number 2 because from this 210, then I would have also obtained more answers from what? From first repetition, second repetition, third repetition, and so on and so on. So the only difference now that we are adding just this k to accommodate, if the question says general solution, it means we have to accommodate the other answers that come from the first repetition, second repetition on the right hand side or on the positive x-axis, and also on the negative x-axis. Okay, so I hope it's clear. We are not changing the way that we are solving the equation. The only thing is that we have to now add this k times 360. And again, I'll say the k is just representing your first repetition. So that means if k is equals to 2, then it means that I have done this one, that one, and that one. So that means I'm accommodating the answer that would have come out of here. And in this case, it would have been 810. Okay. So what happens if it's cos? Now we know that the period for cos is also 360. So that means when you do your answers, you just work as we normally did. And then when you write your answer, it will be theta or beta or B or A. And then it's going to be equal to the answer that you have obtained plus k times 360. And then for tan, because tan repeats itself after 180 degrees, it will then be k times 180 degrees instead. Okay, I hope it is clear. So please do exercise 12. We'll only just do one exercise because I just want us to practice writing the general solution. This is very important. If you just write your answer like this, when the question said find the general solution, you are going to lose marks for not writing this. So it is very, very important. If it's a general solution, it means that you are accommodating all the possible answers that can come even after 360 degrees or below 0 degrees. Okay, so please do this and then I'll come back with the answers. Thank you.